Hey guys, John Paulamy here, Actionable Intelligence. Today is Saturday, August 15th, 2020, and this is the weekly market update. So I have sufficient audience and reach now that I felt it necessary to put this disclaimer up. Basically, this video is for informational purposes, and you should not construe it any information that is presented here as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. All of the information in this video is of a general nature and does not address the circumstances of any particular individual. Nothing in the video constitutes professional and/or financial advice, nor does any information on the video constitute a comprehensive or complete statement of the matters discussed or the law relating thereto. Basically, it is your money, so it's your responsibility. So don't I felt it necessary to do this because we talk a lot about investing and speculating here. If you lose your ass, don't come back to me crying about it. It's your money. I can't know everybody's financial situation. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy with an opinion. This is for information and entertainment purposes. Okay, the reality check. Okay, little quote here from the Who song, Won't Get Fooled Again. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So, all these people rioting in the streets, all of this millennials are outraged, and we're going to have change, we're going to have a revolution. And so we have demented Joe Biden, an old white guy who's walking around in his bathrobe in his finished basement with a mug of hot cocoa, not knowing what day of the week it is. He didn't select, his handlers, the DNC, the people that are beholden to the 1%, selected this grifter Kamala Harris as his running mate. Now this is this is really great. So there was a lot of if they really wanted to have change, they would have selected somebody like this Pete Buttigieg, and he would have got this Stacey Abrams or something. That would have been radical. Okay, of course those people wouldn't have got elected, and they're not having these elections anyways to have any change. These elections are to keep the status quo so that the extreme underclass, which is a small minority of the population, gets their welfare and their entitlements, and the extreme upper class, the 1%, Bezos and Microsoft and Gates and all these people, they get taken care of. That's what these parties are there to do. They're not there to do what you want to do, and I'll demonstrate that in the next slide. But let's talk about this piece of work here. It's interesting. First of all, my view is that Trump's going to win in a landslide. This is ridiculous. This Biden, no one's going to vote for this guy. He's demented. Something's wrong with him. And then you put this Harris in here, and this woman was already rejected completely and wholeheartedly by the Democratic primary voters. She had to drop out because she ran out of money, and no one likes her. No one would vote for her, okay? Even though she ticked all the boxes, right? And why is it important to even discuss this? Well, if these people if Harris and Biden get elected, they will push Biden out. The DNC, the handlers there, he's demented. He can't even talk in complete sentences. There's something wrong with this guy. It's unfortunate that he's out there, that his family's allowing him to be used like this, but he's 77 years old and he's losing it. And so they put this woman in here, and she's not a radical progressive. I'm not worried if Kamala Harris gets in there. She's not going to do anything. I mean, she's going to do what she's told to do. Okay, she'll just be like Obama. I mean, there'll be a little bit of ruffling around the edges, and people will be so pissed off by 2022 that you'll get a big congressional swing again. I mean, this is not radical progressivism. She is the New York Times calls her a pragmatic moderate. She's just another neoliberal grifter beholden to the 1%. That's all she is. She's actually a calculating, devious, truth-challenged opportunist. That's what she really is. I mean, this is a woman that, started out as a lawyer. Here we go again. Never created a business, never did anything, never worked a real job. She was banging Willie Brown, who was the Democratic machine chief in California for decades. And he got her a make-work job at the California Medical Board, which she didn't even show up for half the time. They only met 2 times a month, and she didn't show up for most of those meetings. And then she just started climbing the, typical political ladder. Got herself, state attorney general, and then now she's a senator from California because she ticks all the boxes, right? And, what has she done? She's a nobody. But she's a hand puppet for the people that actually control things, the oligarchy, and she'll do what she's told. So, these people get elected. Biden will either bow out or they'll just push him out if he doesn't bow out, and she'll be the president. But she's not going to do anything. She's not a radical progressive. She'll throw some red meat. Everybody's like, well, she's going to, they could ban fracking. They're not going to ban fracking. They might ban fracking on public lands and in offshore, or not allow any more leases on public lands or offshore in federal waters. So what? The fracking boom, the shale boom took place under the Obama administration. They can't stop what happens on private land. And they can go around the edges and screw around, but, it's not going to happen. So this is just another grift. So I'm not going to let the Trump administration off the hook here. I'm going to give it to them too. The crony capitalist Kodak loan that happened over the last couple of weeks is just indicative of the crony capitalism that goes on in this country. Okay, and why people, especially young people, are so disillusioned, and why they're talking about socialism. What we see in this country is not capitalism. It's crony capitalism by connected people that control these politicians, that are rent-seeking opportunists. That's all it is. And, so what happened here? Okay, so Eastman Kodak was announced from the White House, by the way. They were going to get a $765 million loan to the photographic equipment maker, which almost bankrupt. I mean, this is a company that didn't see the future and actually created the first digital camera. They actually built the first digital camera like in the late 70s and squandered that technology because they were wedded to the silver halide photographic process. And as that thing just went away because of digital photography, so they're a shadow of their former self. So what they were going to do is they were going to get a loan from the federal government and get into the pharmaceutical ingredient business. This is a business, however, that they were already in like a decade ago and failed at. They're going to change themselves into a chemical company or something. I don't know. Now, I don't disagree that we should bring a lot of our manufacturing for our pharmaceuticals back to the U.S., but this isn't the way to do it. This is crony capitalism. And let me get into the cronyism here. So they get a $765 million loan, but this is after they spent months and like almost $1 million lobbying the U.S. government to get the loan. Okay, so you see how it works? You go out and vote, you think, oh yeah, this person's going to come down and kiss my life and make it better and do what I want them to do. No, they don't do what you want to do. They do what people that give them money. You give them money, and then they do what you want them to do. And then people ask me why I would bother investing in Uzbekistan or Mongolia. Aren't they corrupt countries? The corruption was started here. We're masters at it. We just call it lobbying. We call it political contributions here. They're just bribes. You pay money, you get what you want. You pay money, you get access. You make political contributions and you help these hand puppet politicians get elected. You get access, they do your bidding. That's how it works. Okay? So what's even more egregious is that the chief executive officer of Kodak was granted $1.75 million in stock options on Monday. This is right before, so he has inside information, so does the board, and they thought it was a good idea to give this putz all these stock options right before the announcement from the White House of the $765 million loan. Yeah. And you wonder why people want a socialist government and why people are wearing Che Guevara shirts. This is why. And this isn't the first thing. This isn't just some anecdote. We saw the same thing with Whiting Petroleum. Remember that when they went bankrupt? And right before the bankruptcy, the board of directors there decided to give all of the executives huge bonuses. Now, the outrage in the media, I don't know what happened there. I have to go back and look, but I did announce it. But this Jim Costanza, or whatever his name is, I mean, this thing there was so much media outrage, this got rescinded also because it was so ridiculous. And the loan now is on hold, which it should be. If you want a policy to bring back more pharmaceutical ingredients, the base products from China and India, then you just create a legislation that says that in the national interest, over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to have a transition period, and you pharmaceutical manufacturers have to manufacture sufficient number of pharmaceuticals and your ingredients here in the United States. And you can, there's economic empowerment zones. We can incentivize that, okay, if that's what behavior we want. Instead, we cut checks, which the government doesn't have any money anyways, they're bankrupt, to these failed photographic companies because they spent a bunch of money on lobbying. So both parties don't get a pass with John, okay? This is rampant. This is why the political system, that's why people don't like talking about politics, why people are so disillusioned. But you have to understand what's going on because it will possibly affect investments. I mean, the government is now so ensconced into the economy, you have to understand what's going on. And that's why we talk about it. Plus, it's entertaining. I find it amusing. So, moving on, I thought this was an excellent, this is another issue, right? This came out from the EIA, Energy Information Agency of the U.S. government. They could not publicly release data for U.S. production of uranium concentrate in the second quarter of 2020. Why? Well, because domestic uranium production has declined considerably, and activity did not reach a threshold where a specific production figure could be published without violating the protections that EIA has committed to provide. So basically, there's so little uranium production, it probably couldn't even be measured. So we have 20% of our electrical grid is powered by nuclear power here in the United States, and we don't produce any uranium domestically. Now, we have the potential to, and the Trump administration is moving to try to fix that and incentivize that, but how did we find ourselves in this position? Okay, this is your government at work. It doesn't, it's got plenty of time to worry about things that the rainforest in Brazil and, selling the middle class out to China and the crony capitalism I just talked about, and all the politicians going in penniless and coming out centimillionaires. But, 20% of our electrical grid, we have no control of the fuel source that goes into that. That's outstanding. That's real good. So wanted to talk about this. I didn't think it got a lot of play. One of the reasons why uranium stocks underperformed over the last couple of years is because this large uranium ETF, the Global X Uranium Fund, URA, basically because uranium was in the toilet for so long, it changed the constituency of the fund. It started moving away from uranium stocks into other mining stocks like Rio Tinto, and you'll see it on here, or getting involved, Sumitomo, which is a trading company, Hyundai Engineering, companies that had some type of part of their business involved in uranium or nuclear industry, but not 100% focused on it. So what they did is when they rebalanced it, they had to sell off a lot of the uranium stocks. I mean, and so the market cap is so small and the universe is so small for these uranium stocks that this major fund selling those shares off, you had this constant selling pressure, which kind of, fed on itself with investors, right? And force people to puke up these uranium stocks. Now, evidently, they've shifted their view and they're going back from a pure play uranium weightings will rise from 50 to 70%. Okay, and they're going to add some new stocks like I think Global Atomic and Berkeley, and I can't remember the other ones, a couple other small ones that made the threshold. I think they had to have like a $50 million market cap to make it in. But anyways, so this isn't going to be the end all be all, but this is going to add, possible buying pressure to the small universe of uranium stocks that are out there. Still a long-term uranium bull here. But like I said, I don't have a lot to say about it because the fundamentals haven't changed. I've seen a couple reactors this week, and one in Russia, I think one in China went critical. So they're coming online. And it's just, things just continue to happen. Demand continues to slowly go up and supply continues to go down. And we just have to be patient. Our time is coming, I think. and we just need to see how long it's going to take. Okay, I want to get into this. Now, disclaimer, this is kind of fun. I'm going to say that I moved back into some cryptocurrencies just because of a guy that I know or I was acquaintances with. He interviewed me on his channel like 2 years ago about uranium, and he kind of is spent a lot of time in the crypto space, and he came out with a new newsletter, and I started getting more interested in it, and I've learned a lot just in the last few weeks that I've been involved. And I just happened to get into this because I can see there's a lot of activity, shall we say. There's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of I think that the Robin Hooders are coming, and I think I'm going to show you that in the next slide why. But you can see this chart of Ethereum, which is one of the most popular cryptocurrencies. Now look, I'm not a cryptocurrency expert. I rely on I'm doing a lot of research on this. I'm relying on the expertise of other folks that I think know what they're talking about. But I think that, if they're going to shift, if the Robin Hooders and the tourists are going to start coming into this space, we could get a run. Now, this is highly speculative. I have no fundamental analysis of this is involved. I do believe in distributed finance over time, decentralized finance, but I'm not the expert on it. I'm trying to learn. What I'm trying to show you, though, is on a technical basis, we're seeing a breakout, right? And that should not be ignored, especially if we're going to see the influx of all the tourists, the walleyes, I call them. They chase the shiny object. And when I show you this next slide, you're going to understand why. And you may be aware of it already. But just keep this on your radar. If you're already in this space, maybe you can contribute something in the comments. Maybe you have a better understanding. But remember, this is highly speculative, and you really need to know what you're doing. So I just bring this up for information purposes. Keep it on your radar, because I think something's going to happen here just in this era of all this money printing and all of this, shall we say, trying to, all these basically people that are chasing shiny objects. If these things could go on a heater is what I'm saying. And I didn't realize how much some of these things can move. As I've been introduced to some of the smaller tokens or coins or whatever you want to call them, you can see I've seen some things go double, triple, go up 5 times in a space of a couple weeks. So it's highly speculative. It's something that you could lose your backside on, but I just wanted to bring it up. Now here's why I am thinking this. So the king of stonks, Dave Portnoy, is he moving into crypto? I think so. This is a screenshot of an interview he did with the 2 Winklevoss dinks. You might remember these guys. These were the guys that supposedly originally financed Facebook back in the day, and got it going, and then they got basically frozen out. They left with a pretty decent chunk of change and a settlement, and then they moved into cryptos. And when I watched this video, this is how stupid people really are. These three, this is like Mo, Larry, and Curly. They were talking about like gold, why cryptocurrencies are better than gold. And one of the arguments they made, now there may be some good arguments why cryptocurrencies may be better than gold, as far as you don't have to haul it around or store it and things like that. And I'm not going to get into that here, but one of the things that they said is because there's so many asteroids that are full of precious metals, and Elon Musk is going to mine them and bring that gold back to the earth, that's going to overwhelm the demand for gold and force the price down. This is actually what these dinks said. How a fool and his money get together in the first place is beyond me, but they do evidently. So what I'm trying to tell you is, what's the main thing is, besides the fact that it's amusing to me that we have so many stupid people that are wealthy or have money, that's number one. But number 2 is Dave Portnoy has a following of a lot of people, and if he's going to move into cryptos, Why the SEC hasn't went after this guy, I don't know, but a lot of people follow what he says. And I think that a lot of these trading platforms like Robinhood are enabled for some cryptocurrency trading, or they're moving that way. I'm not exactly sure. But, if this guy gets into it, he is going to, um, you know, bring a lot of people in and a lot of money really quick. And that's why you could see things jump. So it's just something to keep in mind. Like I said, if you watch this video, it's, I don't know, kind of eye-opening, I guess, but it's really something else. So we talk about, what gold can do, why gold's a currency. The Turkish lira is collapsing because of the mismanagement by the Turkish government and central bank. It's basically lost about 70% of its purchasing power in the last year or so. And as the Turkish lira collapses, what are Turks doing? They're rushing to gold. And this was a pretty good article. I'll put a link to this if I can find it again. But basically, that's what people do, right? They're trying to preserve their purchasing power. And the story here is about, one of the stories in here, a guy was, going down trying to buy gold as the Turkish lira gets inflated away, and try to preserve your wealth, not to make money, not as a speculation, but to preserve the wealth that you have created, and not to have the government there just steal your wealth by inflating the currency away. And this is what you see time in, time out, all over the world throughout history, right? When it comes down to brass tacks, people will move to gold to protect themselves against government and central bank malfeasance. And the reason I bring this up is we've talked about this before. The Federal Reserve here, the central bank in the U.S. has already told you that they're going to inflate the currency. Why are they doing it? Because the debt is out of control. They've done it before. After World War II, the debts were very, very high in this country because they used deficit financing and debt to finance the war effort. And what they did was they let inflation run hot for a while. They had financial repression, and they forced people to buy bonds. It's coming. This is what's going to happen. And this is why I'm an advocate for precious metals. Not necessarily as a speculation. You can speculate in gold stocks to try to increase your wealth, but physical gold, which is a store of value throughout history, it preserves your wealth. It cannot just be created digitally by Jay Powell and the little dwarfs and elves over at the Federal Reserve. So, just another example, and I thought, I'd point this out. It's you're being told here in the United States that we're going to have higher inflation, that they're not even thinking about raising rates. So what does that tell you? I mean, like I said last week, or in another video, maybe I put up last week, I mean, what does the guy have to do? Drive over to your house in his limousine, knock on the door, and tell you that we're going to have inflation in this country, and they're going to debase the currency? That's what they're basically already told people. Where are we starting to see some of this come in? I mean, here's the DBA, which is it's kind of a small chart. You can go check it out. But the DBA is an ETF that invests basically in agricultural commodities. I don't recommend you buy this. I just wanted to show it. And what are we seeing? We're seeing, the big crash because of liquidity. It's bouncing along, and now we're starting to recover. Maybe this is just a recovery because of this, we had such a decline, or maybe it's because food prices are rising, because commodity prices are rising, okay? Because of, the inflation starting to set in. I don't know. This is something to watch, though, going forward. As the money printing, as the inflation increases, is it going to get translated to real goods? And this is one of the first indicators, right? And I can tell you that a lot of revolutions have started because of increasing food prices. But this is very early. Like I said, this could just be a manifestation of we had such a drop that you're just seeing, a rally now, okay, off the bottom. But it's something we will be watching, I will be watching, because this is one of the things I'm forecasting, especially into next year and the subsequent years, as I think the grand solar minimum, along with some other weather events that are going to happen because of the different cycles we're in, are going to start manifesting themselves. And I think that raising crops is going to be a lot more difficult. We've had 8 or 9 years now of abundant harvests, of tremendously great weather. And that's a streak that's like almost unprecedented. So we've been spoiled with relatively abundance and low food prices. But I suspect that's going to change. Like I said, something to watch. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.